Hi, Shane here. You're watching Sam for God, and this is Mark. Check her out.
So hi guys, how are you doing? The other day I went to the National Theatre to see a musical that's apparently taken about 6 years to write, and that's The Light Princess, which you can see the poster for here. The Light Princess basically tells the story of a princess called Althea. She's the one that you can see on the cover here, as you can obviously tell. And as the name of the musical suggests, she's very light, weightless in a way. She's so light that she's always floating. She can't stay on the ground. Gravity doesn't affect her, basically. She's always floating and flying, but she calls it floating. She's always in the air. She can't stay on the ground because for some reason she's light, and the reason this happened isn't very clear, but it happens when she's 6 years old and her mother dies. So maybe it's her way of dealing with the pain of her mother dying. Instead of grieving all the time, she decides to be light, like not just light as in her weight light, but just generally feeling light and happy and careless in a way. Nothing seems to affect her after the age of 6, and she can't cry. That's another thing about her. She can't shed tears anymore. She can feel sad, I think, but she can't actually physically cry, and I think that's also kind of a thing about her whole lightheartedness, and she's always kind of this silly person who's always happy and floating and not caring about anything. She has a father, obviously. The father's also kind of trying to deal with the whole loss of his wife and stuff, but he also is kind of thinking about the future, and he wants her daughter, Althea, to be the next person to take the throne when he dies and to be the queen when he dies and stuff. So he wants her to, you know, come back down to earth again, to put it bluntly. Basically, he wants her to be normal and stay on the ground and to marry a prince and to take things more seriously, basically. He tries to find cures for her all the time. He gets people to come and try and cure her kind of lightheartedness somehow. Not lightheartedness, but the fact that she's light, basically, and floating all the time, and try and bring her back down. And a lot of people try, and it doesn't really work. But one person finally manages to make it work somehow for her. She doesn't want this, obviously. She's happy to be just floating and, you know, being light and happy and just carefree. But they force her to stay on the ground somehow. I'm not going to give away how, but it's quite a dark and harsh moment in the show, and it's one of the parts where my friend that I went with actually kind of almost cried, I think. But yeah, this princess, she eventually meets a guy. Obviously, she's a princess, and the guy is a prince from another area, and things happen, basically, and they get to know each other a bit, and the prince, actually, he's called Digby. He's also lost his mother, I think, and he's lost the ability to smile, I think. I'm not quite sure, I don't remember it properly, but yeah, anyway, they have a bit of kind of chemistry because of that, and they get to know each other a bit, and as this is going on, there's also a lot of, like, war and other things going on in the whole area between the different kingdoms, and it's quite a political story in that way, I think. But the main focus is always Althea, the princess. The Light Princess, to be more accurate. The plot is based on a book that was written, I think, maybe in the 1960s, with the same title, I believe, and yeah, it's loosely based on it, but it is quite different at the same time, apparently. It is a fairy tale, you know, obviously princes and princesses and stuff, fairies, and the whole show feels almost magical in a way. So yeah, that's pretty much the main plot of it. I don't want to give too much away because there are, like, some twists and some sad moments in the show that I don't want to tell you about because it's more exciting if you just discover them yourself. The Light Princess, Althea, is played by Rosalie Craig. She is incredible in the role. Like, I was literally in awe of her performance because she's floating all the time. I mean, pretty much in the first act she's always in the air, she's never on the ground, and yet she still manages to sing effortlessly and sound convincing in every way, like the way she acted it and everything. You really believe her character, you know, the character of a light princess. It's like you're just literally watching a princess who's like light, and just everything about her character and acting, and particularly singing. I think her singing was outstanding. So yeah, I loved her performance, Rosalie Craig. It was my first time seeing her in something so big, like it was my first time seeing her in a big role, and I can't wait to see her in other things hopefully after this finishes because she is an excellent performer. The guy, the prince, called Digby, is played by Nick Hendricks. He was fantastic again. Yeah, he was really convincing in the role. He had a great singing voice. He acted it well. I enjoyed his performance overall. Then we've got Althea's friend, who I haven't actually mentioned yet, and she's called Piper. She was played by Amy Booth Steele. She was fantastic again. Her voice was incredible. I really loved her voice in particular, but her acting as well, and the chemistry, the relationship between her and Althea, played by Rosalie Craig, was really great to watch. They were very believable as friends. Apparently she's like meant to be Althea's only friend as well, that they've been friends with since childhood. There are some quite touching moments in the show between the friends, and just like quite a few sad moments in regards to Althea's character herself. Like, even though the general story and the plot is quite light and happy and kind of fairies and princesses and sometimes funny even. Every now and again there are some dark moments which just make you feel sad all of a sudden and you're like, whoa, I didn't expect that. But I really love that about the show. Anyway, I can't obviously go through the cast list and mention every single person, but I'm going to name the dad as well, King Darius, who's Althea's father. He was played by Clive Rowe. Again, he had a really, really good voice and was very convincing in the part of Althea's dad. He was very strict with her, and you kind of see the hurt in him in his performance every now and again about, you know, the mum dying, his wife dying and stuff, and at the same time him just wanting to be good at being a king and kind of getting his daughter to be a bit more serious about everything. Yeah, he was a very realistic character, I thought. A few other things I do want to mention about the show though, and the cast. There are some puppeteers, because there's quite a few puppets in the show. Like there's a mouse that makes quite a lot of appearances, especially in Act 1. I thought that was genius. I loved it, the way the mouse was played, and it just looked really natural for some reason, and the actors, the puppeteers who obviously made him move and stuff were excellent. I mean, they obviously know what they were doing, and it just looked very real, and yeah, I love things like that when like there's like added touches to a show to make it more exciting, and yeah, there's quite a few different puppets throughout the show and I loved it. It was very lovely to watch. It was very creative and a great addition to an already stunning show in my opinion. There's also a lot of acrobats. I think there's 4 of them, 3 guys and a girl, and these acrobats are basically responsible for Althea's floating. They're the ones who basically hold her in different positions all the time, constantly, make it look so effortless, make it look like she's genuinely floating. It's just so magical when you watch it. It's really weird to describe, but I mean, they're very, very talented. Those acrobats, I don't understand how they did it, but they must have worked very, very hard to make this look so real and just easy to watch, really. They never looked like they were struggling, and they were just a good team altogether. The 4 acrobats and Rosalie Craig together, I think them 4 were probably my highlight of the whole show. I'd never seen anything like it in any show before, and it just worked so well, and I loved it, and I was just literally in awe of it. So yeah, I loved it. That's probably one of my favourite things that I've ever seen in theatre. It was just really, really cool. So yeah, in that sense it was very unique and creative, and I really, really enjoyed it. The music is done by Tori Amos, I think that's how you pronounce it. She's quite a well-known American singer-composer, I think, from what I've gathered. I don't think I'd ever heard of her, but that's just maybe me being very ignorant. Anyway, I thought the music was really good. It wasn't anything special. Some of the songs were quite catchy, but it wasn't the best score I've ever heard or the best score I've heard in recent years. But it was nice. There were some nice melodies in there, and some of the lyrics were very witty, and obviously because pretty much all the cast had incredible voices, it was really nice to listen to. There's a song called, I think, actually there's no song list in the program, so I can't really name it. I can't be sure if I'm saying the names right, but there's a song that Rosalie's character Althea sings, and it's kind of a theme throughout the whole show, and it's something to do with gravity. Like the word gravity is used quite a lot in it, and I thought that was a very cool song, not only because of the song, like the melodies itself, but also like the lyrics in it I thought were really, really good. The director of the show as well is Marianne Elliott, and she's directed other incredible iconic shows like The Curious Incident of the Dog at Nighttime and Warhorse, which I haven't seen yet but I really want to. And yeah, I thought the directing was great. Do you know what? I think actually the best thing about the whole show was, well, apart from the acrobats and Rosalie Craig's performance, the staging. It looked awesome. There were always things appearing from like the sides of the stage, like I said, the puppets and you know, different things like the acrobats, and obviously like Rosalie's character herself, the way she was like floating, and I don't know, it looked really well directed and very well staged in my opinion. There were quite a few animations going on as well, like for some of the scenes, because it is a fairy tale, so they're like in the forest or doing kind of crazy things that you know, instead of showing it with like the actors themselves, sometimes they were shown on a screen with animations that were absolutely beautiful. Some people might again hate the idea that they used animations, but I thought it was really clever and it looked really nice. It wasn't just kind of like cheap animations, they were like really nicely drawn characters that were very kind of in tune with the whole theme of the show, and yeah, the animations were done by Matthew Robbins, who did an excellent job, I think. The sets, again, are some of the best things I've ever seen in any show, because the show itself was just in general visually stunning. The sets were beautiful, they really, really were. I've heard some people say that they look like panto sets. I completely disagree. Everything looks so nice and colourful, and just because things are colourful on stage doesn't mean it's like panto quality. That's just the idea of the whole show. I mean, it's a princess, she lives in a fairy world and magical world, and everything has to be colourful and weird, and it looked really nice. I mean, I could have sat there and watched just like the stage for as long as I could, really. I loved it. It was really, really clever. There's a scene where they're in the sea, I think, and obviously Althea's kind of floating a bit, but like when she's in the sea, gravity sort of affects her a bit and she's not floating as much. That was done really, really well. I thought it was so nice. Yeah, I just, in general, I think as a production, it was really, really good. The story as well, I thought was great, very different. My friend who I went with actually described it as like a dark Disney fairy tale, which I kind of agree with, because it really did feel like a Disney show at some parts because of how magical it was, but at the same time there were some really dark moments that made you realise that this is a more adult show. And yeah, I really loved it. This show is only playing, I mean, it's been on at the National Theatre for quite a few months now, but I only recently got around to seeing it, and it's closing in about a week and a half, I think, so if you get a chance to go and see it in the next week and a half, definitely go. I totally recommend it. So yeah, that's The Light Princess at the National Theatre, Littleton Theatre at the National Theatre, and yeah, as always guys, I hope you enjoyed my review, and if you've seen the show or if you want to see the show, leave comments, and thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!